All right, we'll bring the meeting to order. 6:00 something. on there.
What's that?
All right, Rodney, you already started, so continue.
Stratford Road's got several pretty bad slides. And I really don't know what it's gonna take to fix those. Because if it's any indication how you get things fixed with this one we're working on, it's either gonna be awfully expensive or something's gonna be.
Or it's not gonna happen.
Is it where water ran down the road and off the edge and pavement and then?
I think
Eroded?
I think basically probably the river took out something underneath and let the whole thing just come on down.
So is there anything you can do to, you said there was gonna be a lot of rain on the end of the week. Is there anything you can do to help not have it get worse?
Probably not. Honestly.
Yeah.
It's probably. You're looking at 30 feet down in there to get to the bottom and there's probably nothing that we can really do until a machine gets there to start from the bottom and bring it back up out of there.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so I don't know. I used to think we knew exactly what we was gonna do to fix a slide, but with these new rules. It gets a little more difficult can you just hire somebody to fix them, or you gotta do a whole bunch of other things to get them fixed?
Right.
So kinda a little iffy right there. I was trying to talk to Chris Bump, but I think he's been real busy.
Look like there's some new troubling cracks there on the White Hill Road, Stratford Road, over there that you're.
Thomas is I've had 2 or 3 calls on that since I went home. And Thomas is gonna take his little drone down there and fly in underneath there to get us some pictures of what might have fell out of there. Because what we're looking for is, water's too deep to get in there. And we're looking to see if we need to immediately shut it down, so it won't fall in when somebody goes over.
Yeah.
Or, and which I don't know where your traffic won't go after that. But, we'll try to take caution to make sure it don't fall in. when
Sinkhole
Somebody's
or
going
something.
over it. But,
Yeah.
And the best way to get there is try one of those, 'cause he went down in the bottom of all of those ones that are on the Stratford Road. So you could have some pictures from the bottom up to the top. And I don't know how they turned out yet. We haven't had them processed here yet. But, it will be interesting to see if that's a good idea.
That's something.
By the road, go with drones.
Yeah. He's already got one.
And, 'cause apparently some marshmallows knocked some boards off the Hal Bridge and they
Saw
went
that.
under it.
Yeah,
And so they were down there. Fire department went down there and looked that bridge over. And,
But all it did is knock boards on. They just knocked the boards on.
it went
That's what it
under
looks
and
like.
snapped them, so
Yeah.
it looks like someone, with a sledgehammer from the inside pushed out, like
Yeah.
they wanted to.
Right.
Fishing practically.
But it didn't dislodge the thing, so it's gonna fall off its gears or.
Oh, no, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
I don't think so.
Just-
Yeah,
Just siding.
cosmetic.
But we got. If all we had was road washes to fix. There's only a good solid week's worth of work out there.
Yeah.
So when we are pretty fortunate compared to everybody else.
Mhm.
And
You mentioned by Foundry Bridge. What's that? You said there was a lens.
that one there is probably. What would you say? You took the pictures 40 feet long?
Yeah.
And it's split. A tree actually let go in the middle of that bank.
Mhm.
And it all landed down on that bottom lawn down there.
So you're just gonna put some stone in there or
Well,
something?
I'm gonna go see the landowner and. Tell him what's going on there, and if we can build right off from where it is, should be easy fix. just will take time to do.
Is it safe enough for now, or is it gonna have to close it down?
It's probably safe enough for right this moment. This upcoming rainstorm may tell a different story.
Whose land is it on, Alex or Karen's?
I believe it goes with the store, I think.
Oh, really?
If it's on the south side of it, it does.
Right.
So
Like where the vast open.
Yeah.
because the original, well, weren't original, but the I can't think of who owned it. They've sold it like 3 times. So one of those owners, so that's why I think it's, they gave us permission to stone that whole thing. And we thought it wasn't necessary, so we never took them up on it. So I'm taking it that I take it the store owns it.
I'll go talk to her.
But I think now we'll have to take them up on it if we can.
Yeah.
So what's on your agenda for tomorrow?
Well, we're gonna finish taking the pictures first thing in the morning. The boys are loading up and going to backside of Tunbridge Mountain, pick a spot. Cause as far as travel goes, we're looking at the worst one we have in town right there.
Yeah.
We have some sides of roads, short spans that are, 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep. But as far as car having a little difficult getting around, over by your house is the worst one we have.
Huh.
There's only-
I never go past my house.
But he's now got a new gravel pit.
Oh,
You might sell that to us.
I'll wait a year till we play, but really desperate.
And so,
I went
most,
up with my old ground plane shovel, tried to turn it. but It was more with my shovel than handle.
but we do have some side gushers that dug out that need to be fixed, but like I said, I believe if we didn't have any slides and the 10 we could pretty near make it look like we didn't get scratched. Week and a half. I think a week can actually do it.
It's Mary White Road, Lisa now.
They're gonna work on it tomorrow morning. They, nobody could get to the pit to load us.
Oh,
Oh,
And
that's
so,
not good.
so we weren't able to get any material, so Matt just went down in there with his excavator and lowered the road to make it. So they could get in and get out.
so it plugged and then just washed around the culvert.
What happened was the culvert got plugged with
Yeah.
debris from upstream and, it's
squeaky tree.
Just-
Yeah,
plugged it right off and pretty much off for a little while and it it left maybe 7-8 feet of road on the upper side. And it was digging out all out on the lower side.
Yeah.
Cause it was probably without any real 15 to 20 feet deep.
Wow.
And it was gonna take the whole thing out, but apparently something let go and let the water go through.
that's good. Because it wasn't too many years ago, you built that up quite a bit.
Well, like I told Larry, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I remember seeing that culvert once already.
Right,
I can't tell you when that took place, but I do remember seeing it.
Makes you appreciate those bigger culverts you've been putting in.
Yeah, but even them, if they plug, you're in big trouble.
Yeah. Or too much water.
Guy come in this morning, he said. Knows, but he said the problem is pulling bigger culverts and then the water goes fast. It doesn't get slowed up by trees there
Yeah, well,
or stuff, so.
seems to me like we don't want the culvert plugging up, but it would be
Right.
nice to let it go slower. I mean, coming down through Dickinson there, the water should have slowed up many times, because There's a lot of trees in that brook.
Yeah,
I'm going down like Cindy's Pond to it.
I think it's not there. Yeah,
It took a heck of a, it took a heck of a gash out of Brent's field.
yeah. I noticed in the minutes, we talked about the hydraulic front end for the new four-wheel drive. Have you heard anything more about that?
Nothing came in today.
I was with you.
I know you, I didn't know.
Nothing that I saw.
Okay.
No.
Then, apparently it didn't get in here. I talked to him yesterday and, told him that you folks were anxious to see it. He said he'd try to get it up to you.
This is for the new truck.
And as far as I know, the new truck's still sitting on the lot down there waiting to go get a body.
The other one, that the whole tone issue that was resolved somehow.
Well, that's. what the-
Yeah, that's the reason, that's for this new front end that we put together.
So other than the rain and all this stuff, how's everything else going?
Things are going, I think it's all going pretty good. All considering the mess we've just went through and the equipment's all holding up. But like I said, I hate talking about that stuff, because there's a ghost over there that says, you talk too much. And then the truck quit running.
I'll just do like I tell my wife when she asks me how things are going. I said, they're going good so far. Nothing is broken yet.
So the mower and the tractor,
Uh,
the mower and the tractor, we had talked about those. A little bit before.
The mowers, well, I don't have any information on a new one. But the mower is still going, there's a possibility you won't get much mowed this week.
Yeah.
I think I can keep them busy in other places, plus the roads are so wet. That, that heavy thing sitting on the edge is not good anyway.
All right,
But I just. Sooner or later, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do with all that stuff up Stratford Road and, but I think that the whole state is having such trouble, it's gonna be a few minutes getting an answer to that.
yep. Well, I suspect that for a while, somebody will declare, the governor's already declared a state of emergency, and then FEMA's gonna do something and they can maybe get some FEMA money.
Cause, I would say if you're gonna put 300,000 into that little one up there, we're probably, you know, if we do it the same way they do it up through there. You know, 500,000 to $1 million, I don't think sounds like it's gonna be a. I think we can probably make that threshold state's looking for right in our own backyard.
Well, I think was Pickett's bringing sand in. before this-
Oh, I didn't know that, that's good.
Yeah, he is trucking. I asked him the other day if he wanted to find a trucker to go with him, we would pay the same price he's getting to bring it over.
Thomas Fairley.
I actually remember.
What, does Thomas have his own truck?
No.
Who's the driver? Well, if that's all you got, you can leave.
All right,
Go see how the drone's doing.
yeah, I gotta go check on that. Get it out of the kill cat, I'll take it right up to Chelsea. Alrighty.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you, Rob.
Mariah reports that the Orange County Sheriff is not gonna show up.
But
Oh.
he sent his contract and he did say today that they don't want to. Police or whatever without a contract signed, so they wanted us to sign it tonight, and I said, I would pass that along to you.
In Windsor
did we-
County.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna follow up on Windsor County.
Oh,
I thought.
I thought-
No, you
I
said.
thought
you
they
gonna-
were calling into you, so that's
It's
okay.
okay, I can call them.
I'm
if you
sure
want
they're
to.
busy because.
Yeah.
Ludlow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy used to be chief is. Really thick, so I'm sure they're.
But if you want, I'll add that to my list and I can call him if you want, and see if he wants to come to a meeting in
Sure.
3 months or something.
Was, contract.
Right,
Lenny. From Orange County Sheriff's Department, I guess he's second in charge or something,
that's what I talked to today.
called me a week ago last Sunday. And just apologized for George not showing up. He said that Lenny had been on vacation. And he marked it on George's calendar, and apparently George didn't look at his calendar or something. So anyway, that's why he didn't show up. But he said they're really anxious for the police force. He said, this is what he said, was they were getting more money and they were getting more people to work, so. And I told him I would pass that along.
I'll try to call Ryan Palmer again too. I mean, try to set them up, but I'll just see. There's a better date.
So do you want to put it off, signing the contract until we talk to Windsor County?
Yeah. So we're getting much policing right now.
Right,
Would be a good idea.
what would
Plus
the,
to sign it before they even come in and
right,
unless what's been going on.
Right.
That's what it's saying.
Right.
just out of curiosity, what are they charging per hour?
I was trying to find that.
I didn't think it said, I
don't.
seen it a couple times and I didn't
Black
think there's
check.
any,
Oh.
Right.
We paid at a rate of $55 an hour.
You didn't stand it very well.
I did, it
Total.
was very free.
Total sum of this contract will not exceed $10,000.
And he told me again that we already know that we're not getting much for $10,000. It's only like 3.5 hours a week or something, so they encourage us to
Yeah, well,
increase the rate.
are we getting our 3.5 hours a week right now?
Not now,
Okay.
that's okay, I wasn't gonna argue with him about it, I just,
We haven't gotten it all year. I believe.
no. But I told him that if they provided the service we would have liked, maybe next year we'd double that $10,000.
Right.
What if I do that?
Man,
Sure,
you're-
Kathleen, if you
you're-
were-
Yeah.
Your last is a big spender.
I've asked him. Anyway. I guess we're gonna table that. Isn't that the proper terminology? Table it. Make sure you get that.
Chair Mullen, table. Signing contract.
Next, way ahead of schedule is Becky.
And
So, we had surplus in the highway fund. The thing that we did at the town meeting is we voted that we would all surplus. Once we moved into our fund, we put it in there. And this $98,885, I would like to. put in the emergency fund. This.
I would suppose so.
Highway ambulance fund in the. It just ended. We had voted at town meeting, to remove every penny to our fund. This is money that we've not. Not. Funds, so it's not tied up in the. How we're gonna spend our open money.
Yep.
I figure this is that would be. So highway had $46,271.06. General fund had $52,720. It was right there, I was like, oh, we're gonna make it this year. And then some of that general fund. Is sort of in their grant. That has to stay in place. The rest of it.
And how much do we have in like our emergency highway fund now? 100 and something thousand, wasn't it?
I think it's 150,000 for that.
Who rated it at all?
Not that I know, of,
Just. Added to it,
because I think the last 2 years, maybe we put the surplus into that. 2 or
Right.
3 years, whatever it's been.
We funded it for a couple years and then we said we'll just put surplus over there.
Oh, right, right. We just, when Rodney talks about 500,000 or whatever, to just patch something up, that we ought to do. We might, if it's a couple 100,000 or 250, we're gonna spend it.
We're looking at $132,693.49. This is small summer. Getting old.
well, especially if it's, you know, what we did for was essentially the front money that we're getting reimbursed for.
Yes, yeah,
Hopefully, yeah.
so we're gonna be $225,000, that'll help get through this.
Or the match, right?
But
Yeah.
it'll at least get us started before, I don't know how long it takes, you know, like years.
Yeah.
It's money and Rod's talking about. Lot. of money, it's,
Well, and if that Bridget Tuttle's is no good, I mean, there's a couple 100,000 right there that we're gonna have to do, because you can't just close that road for a year or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how. the money will go down, but. We're gonna need.
And you mentioned, I saw her at the North Country store this afternoon, you mentioned Mary Ann and grants or something. Or was that just FEMA stuff?
Yeah, well, she. Learn how to. do things like-
Yeah, we talked about it this morning and she said that we'll just do it together, because I've never done one either, so that way both of us.
Yeah.
do it together.
I bet you do a good job.
Go on a retreat.
A FEMA retreat.
Get Rodney to drive you there,
Yeah, yeah,
take some treats, make sure you take treats.
I know, I'm gonna pack a whole lunchbox.
And then the only other thing I wanted to talk, which is not really, pertinent to our current disaster, but we should start thinking about, creating some policies for our remote workers. Being that, are we gonna give them stipends for, you know, telephone usage and internet usage and this kind of thing? We should really get this. Also looking at our mileage policy, we don't have a written policy. But we just need to make some decisions about whether, you know, where you start coming mileage. We're concerned right now. Moves further out. Mileage doing their hourly. So those are things I want to start thinking about and looking at policies. We don't know if you guys had any thoughts on that, any directions we could go.
Heard of it?
And our administrative assistant, check with some other balance.
She's writing it right down now.
Yeah, no, any resources we can come up with, I would love to, but that, I really want to start. I think we need to be more concrete about how we should mileage. And remote workers, like, Marianne really makes phone calls, not.
Yeah.
Here. You know, this town nurse, a lot of phone calls, I feel like we should do something towards that. That's, I think most of the.
Very nice.
Work content.
Yes. We do. So usually we start the mileage here. And then, you know, it's around. also reimburse the highway guys if they take their personal truck to go drop some around to pick up or something. But they start the garage, so it's never come about that we had people. So we just need to look into that.
I got a question that's on. I was up in Chelsea and the Masons up there were scholarships for seniors. And they got a school. And after a little investigation, found out two of them aren't even in town. Does anybody ever check on that stuff? When do we pay that? We pay in the fall?
So the way it works is every year you have to declare your residency to the school. I don't know. We did. I think I just said yes. Yeah, it's just a farm.
Are you sure you might have to prove it? I mean, maybe it's different. 'Cause I do like,
Your challenge.
like when I did preschool registration for Davis, I had to show like the copy of my deed. And that was just for preschool. Yeah.
I mean, for Alex, all I've ever done is fill out a form that says yes. This is, and I have to say this is where I live. I think the hard part is,
Well, that's all very well, but if you call up the school right now and ask them how many seniors graduated from Tunbridge,
so I think here's the question. Parents are split up.
Yeah.
And the dad lives in Tunbridge,
Yeah.
and the mom lives outside of.
Yeah.
And
and
then
the kid is going to school outside.
the kids going outside of school to still pay the tuition for them. They're still eligible for tuition for that. One parent.
That, they want one parent that's here, one that's in Norwich, and the kid goes to Hanover. They could potentially say.
They could, which would then negate us having to pay anything.
Is there any cross checking of that? Has anybody ever, or there's nowhere to pay in Tunbridge space too?
So this is a school issue, and I think there is some cross checking, especially when people know come along, like, obviously they recognize the name, they're like, oh yeah, there's a delay, that's fine. This is somebody who moved in, and I am not in charge of that part. I know there's often within the year, we'll get refunds for some people. Out of our school district.
Okay, well, I just wondered about, I never thought about something like that.
I'm just, there were two seniors like.
No, they said they lived here, and then when checks into it, one of them was living in Brattleboro and somewhere else, but maybe one of their parents is still affected. I don't know that.
I think that's the hard part. As long as one parent lives here and say my kid lives with me 50%.
Okay.
I don't know all the rules. That's
It
it.
was, it's that like 20 years ago when Sherman kind of just started.
Yeah.
People were renting, got me apartments here.
Right.
so it's-
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. I have a question that is related.
Okay.
The auditors said that we should have different policies and stuff set up, and then have we got, do we need to do more?
I did all of those and need the ones that they said absolutely need to have in place.
Yeah.
All of those are.
And then I have a list of ones that were suggested that I've been slowly,
Okay,
Yeah,
so we are kicking away at it.
yes.
yeah, all the ones that they said we absolutely have to have the placement.
So you wanted for Mariah to look at mileage and reimbursement for,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
anyway,
The other company in there too.
And then you wanted someone to make a motion to move the surplus as to the emergency fund.
Maybe,
Yeah. I'm just gonna correct. I'm gonna give you a number. A number can there can still be,
To make a motion, just minus what
make a motion that we move the surplus from the highway and then the fund into the emergency highway fund.
it's really, I have to move it to ARPA. So, and then it can go,
But we've already voted to do that, right?
we've already voted to that, so it'll be in the ARPA funds, and we just have to, and maybe you can say the money, excess money. Excess of like.
Can you,
This- Right, this is not part of ARPA.
can you give us a concrete number for next meeting?
I can't, yes,
And we can say exactly,
yeah. Because we're, like, right when it ends, there's still.
Yeah.
Things that are. Yeah, and then it shouldn't be. I just need to move the nurse. Yeah, I don't wanna.
So you'll
Maybe
be-
it can go with ARPA.
so you'll be more confident with your figure next meeting.
Yeah, yeah. But
because we get money in our man.
we've got some, but I think it's
Oh.
gonna go really, really.
Oh, yeah, but hopefully get it through to these.
Yeah, so yeah,
And then there's also, do we have enough cash flow to get through until November when the real tax money starts coming in?
yeah.
Probably.
Because I mean, if you think about it, like, we just have to make it to. August 26th. That's when we get taxed for the last part.
At some point, we get, I can't remember, 30-something thousand in state aid quarterly or.
Yeah, and
whatever it
those
is.
laws start coming in.
Yeah.
I'm not that concerned, we have enough. You know, squirreled away in different places. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
Well, okay.
so-
We'll come back to us, or at least present something, you don't have to in person.
One of the final number. that you guys come forward with that.
Yep.
Perfect. Oh, and in your pile of things to sign, there are, what, okay, everybody.
Oh, good idea.
Right?
We're paying everybody this year, but it's just somewhere here.
It's already happened, but I
Oh.
would like to make this now.
Oh,
So, yeah.
it's just starts.
Yep, yep. Well, we're getting 17.50. Barnaby's getting 17.99. Darn it, 18.
I just started playing on that. It's like 2 years. I'm just
And we-
getting that box. It's like,
Heard anything from Eli?
Did you see this email she sent me? I forgot about. Well,
Sent it to all three.
Oh, yes, I did say that. See that.
so I'm gonna call this guy. and just
Okay.
See who he is. This David Hammond, you know him?
No.
Does anyone know David Hammond?
Let's see.
He's interested in working at the dump.
Oh,
So he must
have
be
you
a-
come in?
he must be a questionable character.
Is he a Tunbridge
If no-
resident?
That's what he says. I am replying to the response in your inquiry for the Tunbridge quarterly for the dump operator. I am a Tunbridge resident interested in this position. Please reach out with any questions. Well,
The next meeting. let's get him in.
yes, I'll call him and just invite him in.
But you could always use more.
You've never had.
Let's do
All right. So we'll get that out of the way.
And then also in all of your piles, there is our budget. Has ended. Yeah. So if you're curious,
At the end of the year.
year end,
with the surplus.
yeah, and you'll see where the ARPA grant revenue came in. And then.
We could probably get Mary in maybe next meeting,
So,
just to catch up with, was, when we get our whiteboard,
So this
Yep.
is in
where we are with those.
it's in it,
Oh,
it's,
fine.
yeah, it's still called the ARPA fund, and we might wanna change that name. At some point, but right now, I just
Can you invite Mary in next meeting? Probably done. Makes it.
get out and perfect. So,
Okay,
um. But so that's where it came out of the general fund and there's one and. There,
So like ongoing expenses, like when we pay Mary Ann, that's from our company.
so, yes, because we put her salary in as, or the, her salary for the next year. we would take it out of that. And then I think in the next meeting, you'll see a bunch of payouts for. for the ones that happened.
Good. Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
thank you.
Thank you. Got over later. I don't know what to do now. We're half an hour early.
Want to do the liquor license approval?
Sure,
Okey-doke.
You what?
liquor license.
Alina Inc., which is the people that do the beer hall.
Yeah, that.
Yes. So they're applying for a first class license for the,
You know,
for the beer hall and all the beer tents.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay,
Do they do the tents too? Or just?
I think they do like the craft beer tents.
They do?
Yeah. They are, so I won't approve it till I get the dollars.
How much do they open?
115.
Oh. Well, nobody said no. I think it's just approved.
That sounds good. Do we need a motion?
I make a motion. that we
Approve the liquor license.
approve the liquor license.
A second.
I'll say aye. If you approve, aye,
Um,
unanimous.
Perfect.
We all like beer.
Who doesn't?
Lori,
Really?
not a beer drinker.
Wine?
Fine.
Hard to say.
Well, it's always a good, like a rum punch.
Oh, okay. Have some other business, if you want to talk about that.
Well, let's do that, just in case anybody else wants to talk about legal trails.
You know,
Hasn't wandered in yet.
Mike talked about that already, Becca talked about her stuff. Jason Andrews, who did the pressure washing.
Yep.
Sent a follow-up email, just wanted to check in, make sure if there was anything that he was missing or anything you wanted him to retouch. He did say that he bleached the front of the building twice because there was still some yellowing, and he thinks that the front should be pressure washed one more time before winter. Because he thinks that would help with the
Yeah.
color and stuff, but I just wanted to check them.
What would you charge for the front?
I will ask.
Okay. the door's sticking less.
Like
Yes,
a
it is.
dentist,
Yeah, just need a whitening.
kind of, because it's like flat.
Yeah,
Out of curiosity, the work that he did do, what was the cost of that?
What was it, 700 something?
750, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, it looks nice. I mean, I can't tell. Exactly what happened, but he sure made the front door stick.
Yeah. And then we had approved purchasing a new sink for the bathroom.
Yep.
But we were gonna wait till July, so it was the new fiscal year. Well, in waiting, it has increased in price, so I wanted to ask you again, if it's okay, if there's like an extra $100, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
that included shipping and stuff too. I can look
From North
around,
Korea, it cost him a
I know, our North Korean.
Could have saved $100.
Yeah. What was it, $129?
It was $199 before,
Yeah.
so now
Yeah.
it's $299, but that includes
Yeah.
tax. Cause before I had just printed off the picture, but
Yeah.
this is the one, but then when I put it in the cart, it was like $50 more in original cost, and then it was $30 shipping and $30 tax.
So we get you, and then just suck in, and
How they get it?
just get that North Korean sink, and get your heart set on it.
We have to make a motion on that, or just,
Just, I mean, you already made a motion, so I probably just a verbal, yes, that's fine.
We'll give you a verbal yes.
Yeah.
Make sure.
Don't wait another year.
I won't, I'll order it right off. I waited until July. I was just following orders. And then Judy Howe wanted to talk to you about two things. The bugs that always come out in the fall, town hall.
Uh-huh.
She wanted to know, she had talked to a pest control company about coming in and spraying. But the neighbors would have to keep their dogs inside for like an hour or two after, so she was worried that that might be controversial. She doesn't want to get the dogs sick,
Mhm.
so. She just wanted to know what your thoughts were on pursuing maybe getting it sprayed and looking into that.
I assume they're gonna spray the outside of the building.
Yeah.
That's why they need.
Yeah.
the packs.
And then
are these the bugs that?
those little
Sure,
bugs
yeah.
with the red, yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
the ones that come out in like the fall.
Yeah.
That's chilly. So I said I'd bring that up to you guys. I'm sure we have time to think about it.
Yeah, we'll just put it up again.
And then the cleaning of the hall, she's noticed a couple times that like the people who do like breakfast or who use it, you know, for like Bible studies or things like that, kind of leave crumbs and more of a mess than like, you know, is asked of them. So she wanted to know if she could put up a poster, like as you walk in, just stating like the rules, like, you know, this is what you need to clean up after yourself, like these are what you're expected to do. She said it's on the contract, but as a reminder.
Make a couple signs.
Yeah,
Okay. And that's all I was
like a checklist.
fuck with Red Sox.
All-Star game.
Yeah, hot and cold.
They're not right now. You wanna wait here? or-
Oh, we was,
We can
I don't know.
launch into it.
we just launched into it, I guess.
Sure.
There's more than likely nobody's here, so.
Move on.
Brenda's there with another woman. And then.
Maureen.
Susan,
Who's on the beach?
Beach. Right?
And then we have the unknown caller.
And
Yeah,
We're off mute now. Did you want something from me?
Yeah. Cookies.
Next time, popcorn.
oh, nice.
Like a movie, they're watching a movie.
Yeah,
All
wait
right.
for the show to start. Feeling it's gonna be a repeat.
All right, well, let's launch into legal trails. It says Jonathan Bickle and Selectboard.
We should get. Brenda, who's your guest there? We should just,
This is
Yeah,
Elise. Elise.
oh, Lisa's there.
Lisa's on that show.
Oh,
That's what's to me.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just for a minute.
You wanna pull up a chair?
It's the Drew Road seat there.
Right over there.
It's gonna be an easy conversation, just like the beer hall, right?
You want to have beer?
So we got Elise, we have Sue.
Yeah.
Sue's on the Trails Committee.
Maureen's
Sue on
there.
there?
Yeah, she's right here,
Oh, that's it.
I don't know who iPad is,
and then a number.
and then Ruby was.
Yeah,
here.
it's right up.
Water, and then do we have Kevin Rose?
Never seen Kevin there.
So we have everybody but Kevin. And who is Elise? Who's Elise? She was,
I'm Elise.
yeah, she's.
I'm sitting with Brenda. I'm on Drew
She
Road.
lives next to the, okay, the Drew Lock. Okay, yeah, so she just joined. What was it, a couple months ago?
Yeah, and we're just adjacent to the town forest.
All right, fire away, John.
Fire away, Jim.
Give us a
You're
report.
giving me full freedom here.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I watched the, sorry I was away. Red Sox game, they didn't win that. That was an awful cold that night. So I was able to watch the report, unfortunately. But what I heard in the last meeting is, you know, John, you made a comment that you haven't had a chance to talk to the Trails Committee, so maybe I could talk about, it's been a few years, right? And I think we all know why the Trails Committee was formed, mainly on the legal trails, and it all culminated in this recommendation September 2021. And for those who don't have a copy and have a smart device, it's on the Legal Trails website at the very top. Okay. And I believe this is still, even though it's a couple of years later, I think it's still pretty relevant if you look at it, right? Another item that we worked on and provide on that page is an info sheet, right? Because it can, even today, I think it's important because can be some confusion about why are we talking about legal trails? What are they? Why does it involve us, right? That sort of thing. So that's another item. And then when it went into litigation, we honestly went into a pause discussing legal trails. We started to focus on the town forest, a lot of opportunity there. We had guest speakers in just to get to know all the dimensions around having a trail. And then we applied for a grant because there's comments about wanting trail signage and better parking in the town forest. We did win that. I don't know if everyone heard that. So that thank you to our grants administrator and Rudy, were able to pull that off. And then recently we had a listening series for all the users over the winter period. And one of the there's many common themes, and one of them was trail connectors. Right. So we wanted to think that through in a thoughtful, careful, methodical way. You know, walk before we run, right? Make sure we can handle a few trails before we do a broad network. And so recently we've been talking as a group, focused on how do we roll out trails, right? So you've got the legal trails, you've got the town forest, and then you've got private trails. And that's a whole new ballgame. Fast does a wonderful job. They're a great model, right? So the things that we talked about recently were, you know, we feel like we would want an agreement with whoever owns the property or an MOU. So this is advice from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. So things like trail location, recreational use are very important, right? So the landowner is covered, right, from a liability perspective, but that agreement helps cover us. Another essential is trail signage, right? So making sure the users stay on the trail for a lot of reasons, right? Those are essential items. But when it comes to the actual owner, we feel like the agreement on the town forest would be the town forest committee, right? The agreement on the private property would be obviously the private landowner, right? And then anything related to the legal trails, even though it's owned by the landowner, would be the select board who is making that decision, right? So that's how we see those areas. Beyond the essential things like parking and trail signage, you know, we identified it's going to be open to the public. We can't say, oh, only Tunbridge residents, because who's gonna who's gonna pull out, right? What if you have a friend from out of town, right? So with that, we always know that they could be overused, right? There's always that potential. So it's really important to have a trail steward, right? Someone who walks it often, who keeps an eye on it and is empowered to make a decision. Like yesterday, they would have made a decision, right? No trail, like, I think we'd all agree, no trail use yesterday, right? And then, other areas, you know, a lot we're gonna have to discuss is like, you know, maintenance, how do we handle maintenance, and then, how do we decide on recreational use? So that's a quick summary of a few years. What am I saying there? What's that, cover the bases? Okay, all right. So,
When you're thinking about this or VLCT, is there sort of a definition of trails? You know, like I was thinking, like, say we did a trail loop that used a class 3 to a class 4 to a trail on a private land to a legal trail, you know, do all those count as trails?
I'm looking at this info sheet and what we've written down is a trail means a public right of way, which is not a highway.
Okay,
Right. And then there's more details about legal trails, right, in here. So,
So you could walk on a class 3 road, but it wouldn't be a trail, but it would just be a walk.
So clarification on the public right of way. So if, like to go with your example, John, if you had a loop that involved a private trail, in other words, that it's not a legal trail, but the person would say, okay, I'm gonna, you know, kind of like Bass, we're gonna make a yearly agreement to use that. I don't think that would be considered a public right of way. It would basically be, you have permission for this period
Yeah,
of time
yeah.
over the private trail.
yeah, I would say that's, if you look at our recommendation. We didn't actually use those words right away, or I think the vast model is a great example of how they approach it with a private.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. So,
And that's a club having right away, really. So club, people who belong to the club could use.
you have an
it.
agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, for certain periods.
Right.
Right. So,
And it's not a right of way either, it's it would be a club has an agreement with landowner for a trail. So. And maybe I'm,
Right, I don't know the definition of right away as far as
right,
that sort of club. Private landowner, I mean, it seems to me a type of right away, because the landowner clearly owns the land. They have access to it for a good amount of time.
Yeah, exactly.
And a type of access, like so
Right.
much.
Perfect.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
privilege.
all right,
All right.
thank you, because you definitely have a direction you're going in.
Yeah.
With everybody,
So in regards to the Orchard Legal Trail,
Yeah.
what were your recommendations?
Yeah.
For legal?
Yeah, so we did, just so you know, we did say. I'll go to this right now. Until the trail can be reviewed by the state district's wetlands ecologists, it is open only to pedestrian use when the ground is frozen, right? So. Right now it's open to pedestrian use. And we wouldn't recommended that until the state district wetlands ecologist was able to review. There was, what's noted in here was a Jeff Parsons review, John Echeverry's request for that, right? And it did find areas of wetlands that are class 2 or class 3, right? But the trail, not that I'm not aware of the trail being reviewed by the actual state wetlands ecologist. It was.
yeah, Elijah Schumacher.
Okay, you want to speak to that? So at the time of this document, September 21, that's what we wrote, so.
Without the fund, Elijah Schumacher is what college for the Department of Environmental Conservation and fairly have to find the date of that.
So you say What I said, the bottom line is, it wasn't a clear yes or no on use without a plan. Right, yeah.
I would say that would be the job.
Sure.
I think state policy may have evolved, when we were debating this issue. He came out and he said there are a couple of class 2 wetlands. Although it shouldn't exist in and he said those would present a regulatory issue. But he said, the permit will tell the issue. Is there a regulatory issue? Somewhere along the line, I think it was new. The state concluded that there are sort of allowed or permitted uses, things you can do with weapons without getting permission from anybody. Those include bird watching and walking, horseback riding, and now, according to the interpretation offered by the city, biking. So my understanding is that that under EDC rules, bikes, if allowed by the town, could go through the wetlands. Schumacher responded to that. I think that was including this lead. And he said, my strong recommendation would be that you do something, address the wetlands, protect the wetlands before you open up to the citizens' use. But I think what he was saying is my higher ups don't have any rules on wetlands. I think you ought to impose, if you wanted to open that trail of bikes, you should put in place some protective measures like a block guards. I think that's the state of.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I would not say that there's no rules. When the rules got revised in 2016, DEC issued a specific document about recreational uses for trails and had a bunch of guidelines in that document. How to address trails in ways that did not require permits. It depends on the extent of the wetland. It depends on the projected uses. There's a bunch of different specifications that need to be hit. If it requires modifying more than 250 square feet of the trail, you need it.
So I think the bottom line is, oddly enough, EC interpretation is that you could ride a bike through there, EC wouldn't care. But if you try to put a boardwalk, you protect the wetland, or affect more than you can, it's square foot. You might. Yeah.
In order to do work, to do the work. And part of the reason for using existing trails is that constructed features are exempt on some of the regulations of permitting and have different requirements. But as John noted, if you're not doing work, you don't receive money. So you can, it wouldn't be the trail. But you could ride your bicycle or walk on it until it made a mess. Yeah. And then once it made a mess, you could determine then if you needed to make work on it, and then you have to get the permit then. So, but you could make a mess first. I mean, you wouldn't want to, but.
And if I can say, partial solution at least would be to say to the Trails Committee or what Stewart is, should we close it, like, trails should probably be closed right now based on like my walking recently.
Right.
Like, and whether it's a week or 2 weeks, and one way to mitigate it would just be to say, let's close it down until things dry out.
Yeah. And even in our recommendation, we mentioned there should be clear seasonal use, seasonal.
Right, but which in this case doesn't end with the end of mud season, right?
No,
Where you're now.
No,
back in mud
yeah, we had
season.
state trucks with plows on it.
So now that George is here, I'll just as a memory refresher, based on the permitting regulation, et cetera, the 250 square feet of disturbance, if you were to stay below that, the select board did designate an ad hoc committee that went out and looked at the Orchard Trail and did some measurements, and George, you can certainly add a lot more to this. And at that time, we're keeping cognizant that, you know, we could probably get around this wetland, so a boardwalk, something like that, stay below the 250 square foot sort of disturbance of the ground. And I think if that were to eventually happen, that would not trigger a permit requirement. Is that what you're recalling, Rudy? If you're under 250 on the disturbance. Not to say that maybe you have to do more than that at some point and that you would go for a permit, but they're kind of the three levels. One, as you were saying, Gary, well, if we're not planning to do anything and say, hey, everybody can just go through until it gets trashed, which I don't think anybody is in favor of that. Or two, looking at it carefully as to how that type of disturbance could be mitigated. And then three, does it rise to the level of actually, you know, getting a permit beyond the 2 feet?
You guys got going early.
Things are just happening. And we're-
Contract, I just don't understand.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Anyway, I think you want George to speak to your walk.
Right. Kick that, yeah.
Well, just at the last select board meeting, just remind everybody. George said, we talked about the alternative trail, and we agreed that George proposed that we walk in and talk about it. And that we, John, does if we participate in that walk and talk. And so I would just say that we walked and we talked and that we are making progress, I would say, and it's walking this hard.
Yeah, at the last meeting, I agreed to look into the alternate routes further. Which also includes one that you previously suggested last year. So we have made some great progress, John, and I back with John Maria the last 2 weekends and talked a lot about basically just how to go forward one step at a time with different going through the process of considering and determining the parameters that kind of define an alternate trail. John has proposed an alternate trail that the same one basically that we looked at last year. We basically last year we came to a dead end with that. For reasons of some questions, some of the more difficult hurdles to overcome with that. But it seems like there's been forward motion on some of those significant hurdles. That I think make it worthwhile to be pursuing this this avenue. So to sum it up, basically, it seems like John is offering to make that pretty uninviting trail route into an inviting that is comparable to what exists now. And so that, that was a major sticking point last year, the cost of doing that. So also this time, John O'Brien being actually part of the discussion made it really more of a real possibility because the O'Briens are open to the idea of a reroute also through there. So that's kind of where we've gotten with that as far as forward motion on that. So you're still, you know, at this point, I'm still. I think that we're just working our way through the hurdles. So certain, the first hurdle is there agreed upon route with both property owners? Yes, that seems to be looking very good. The second question is it legal? Well, I guess the second question would be, what? The second question is, to what level should the new trail be constructed? And I feel like we're pretty far apart on that at this point. I'm not sure that John is interested in upgrading that potential route to be able to handle all of the currently or suspended rights that exist on the trail. So that's a dollar issue. Also, what has come to light over the meetings is that that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, a key component to John Maria is that the current orchard trail be thrown up, and that he would like to exchange the throwing up of the orchard trail for the certification, the legal town certification for the alternate trail, which would be basically exchanging the legal right of way from one route to the alternate route. And that, you know, it's very simple to throw up a road, that's not a problem. But I think, and, you know, none of us really knows the answer to this question, but this is conserved land through the Upper Valley Nature Conservancy, and I'm personally doubtful that it's going to be legal to take one legal right of way that's established and move it to another one, considering the difficulty of the route. So how many do we have there? It's 1, 2, 3 difficulties. There's one more.
You mentioned we have to agree now with the structure, we can do that, and then the question is what much money to collect.
Right. And route, money,
Right.
legality, and level of construction, level of usefulness.
I think there's also sewage, we have to invest with the lot of Schumacher.
Yeah.
And say, this is the route, this is a set of proposed process structures. It's my understanding is that some level of bridges and the trail can occur, even if it impacts wetlands or the buffer area without any authorization. But it's there may be that it involves more than the minimum level of activity to make it request.
I don't know what the difficulties of permit is, because, you know, some permits are famously difficult, but actually not so hard to get in reality, and also the opposite. But so that's where that stands at this point. I think it's worth considering just continuing on, and these obstacles are massive to me, but Thomas on that daunting, but I think in the meantime, this process is gonna take years, and or at least a significant amount of time. And in the meantime, I think my personal opinion is that we should continue life as we know it and continue to work on this, to work on a possible solution. And also, it might be possible that later on, after the court cases finally settle, that we have more information about, you know, we have more clarity, maybe the negotiation can change there in a sense where it'll be very easy. And I'm always open to the idea of putting an alternate bike trail that would get the bikes out of the backyard. But I think the complication there is a requirement. It's I understand it from John, so the orchard trail is thrown out. So that's basically, I think in the meantime, we should go back and use the bikes on the trail and to exhaust the possibility for establishing a nice right of way. Yeah, that's just can't wait.
Real quick, Thornton, part of the just me as well, sorry. Meant to mention you.
Hi, Jordan.
Yeah.
Hey, this bit, you might be sorry later because of what they should.
No, we're good at it, too. Sorry, we're early.
We're the same.
That's right.
Yes, yeah, I just wanted to say two things. One, you might, it might be a sensible prediction that this will take forever, because the thing is, forever to get this. But, I think we've made, a kind of a breakthrough in terms of trying to come to solutions. And I think that working together, we can work through these lots. Now, we may, insurmount costs, but I think we can find that out pretty quickly. And I think we can get this done so that, people are riding on the alternate trail next season. No, that's not this season, but that's, I think we can get that done and work cooperatively, and expeditiously, and I'm certain that's one of the beauties of retirement. Like that. Again, not, a lot more flexibility. The other thing I want to mention, because I know it sticks in your straw on the idea, or it seems very complicated. Or it raises people's taxes to think of throwing out a public land. I just want to emphasize that from a legal standpoint, I said this before, I think it's quite straightforward. I talked to a real estate attorney, we've heard from Paul Gillis. Now, I don't think the mechanics of it are complicated, or that it's in any way unprecedented. And my interest is the following. I want a solution that addresses the needs and interests of as many people as possible, including starting with the wife and myself. But the bikers, the horseback riders, the skiers, the hikers, so everyone can enjoy the dog farm and Mango's farm and live in harmony. And that's what we're trying to get to. But the equally important, I want to come up with a solution such that I don't have to go through this again during my life. That we bring a peace, a certain complete resolution. And the concern I have with creating an alternate trail and having a gentleman's agreement that bikers can go there, or creating a new legal right of way. And putting in place an ordinance that says the Orchard Trail is closed to bikes and bikes can go on this other trail. Is that if the current trail right of way remains where it is without change, then it's always subject to modification. And while this very well-intentioned select board might come to an understanding about what they want to do and put in place ordinances and establishment trails that achieve what looks like peace. From the point of view of the landowner, if the right of way continues to go through the middle of the building area, we are subject in perpetuity to the risk that someone's gonna come along and say, well, that was then. And we think it's nice to have a kind of rolling trail that some people like, but it'd be better to have a flatter trail. So we want to open that up. And an arrangement in which we're sort of living under suspense, constant. That some new assault might be launched to open up that trail. This is a solution that does not achieve at least. So, and I just want to emphasize that finally, that we have, from the beginning, opened up the dog farm to a whole variety of uses, including walking and hiking and skiing everywhere. And we will not, we're going to work this out, close the Orchard Trail to pedestrians. And we would leave that portion of the dog farm open to pedestrians, just as we've left the rest of the dog farm open to pedestrians. We certainly wouldn't pick out that old trail and say, well, no more pedestrians there. So I think if people are interested in the idea of walking, being able to walk up to White Rock, or being able to walk down the Orchard Trail and then doing a loop up to White Rock and then coming back down the other side, we're perfectly matter of doing that. But we do want a legal arrangement that doesn't expose us to the risk of bikes, e-bikes, and beyond.
Matt.
Yeah, so I guess I would say. I mean, on a proposal, first of all, thanks both to John and George and John for. Putting in the effort to talk about this. I mean, personally, I think. And this is speaking as a townsperson, not a biker, that any proposal. To throw up these roads, I mean, we talked about lack of. Input from townspeople, the one. Time recently when townspeople have spoken was in the town plan where they said, do not throw up roads. And I mean, I think one day after a massive flood that shut off part of the valley, we can see that like it might, we have an inventory of town legal rights of way. And there are times, there could come a time where any one of these legal trails actually could become important for getting people around from, up on the peaks rather than having to go down to the valley. So setting aside all of the recreation issues, I don't think, I mean, I think it should be put to the town if we were considering throwing up any of these legal trails. And yes, from a legal perspective, from a procedural perspective, it's easy to do. The town could then revisit, the townspeople through petition could revisit a select board opinion or decision rather. I mean, if the deal were reroute the bikes and put up an ordinance, that might be worth exploring. I will say, I share George's skepticism about how quickly we can do this, and I think it's certainly ironic that 15 minutes after we're talking about wetland impact for an existing legal trail, we're talking about a reroute to a place that my understanding is even wetter than the Orchard Road legal trail. So, I know that trail builders are very busy right now. I'm doubtful about the ability to get a trail builder in there to do this. So I think George's idea, which is continue to explore, open it up to reasonable use, subject to closures by the Trails Committee, is, a reasonable way to accomplish it. I think, again, bike use will be significantly lighter than pedestrian use on those trails because you have to get up there to do the biking. And the way people access those trails is park down in the valley and bike up those hills. And there are not a lot of people who want to do that.
So one thing could actually be answered pretty quickly, and I think George mentioned it, and that is what is the position of the Upper Valley Land Trust on a potential change of a right-of-way and a legal trail, making a new legal trail on that conservation easement? I don't expect you to answer that unless you already have a firm answer from that. But so getting that question answered, because if the answer was, that can't happen under this easement, that changes the whole thing. I think we could probably get that answer pretty quick. Since I have it in front of me, wait.
No, that's that. Keep going, Tom.
Okay. Just quoting from the town plan, something that is still in the town plan, and it does pertain to this. And I don't have the page number. I think it's about page 51 on the transportation section. Given the interest in the benefits from hiking, biking, snowmobiling, cross-country skiing, and similar outdoor recreational activities, the town should, as an alternative to complete discontinuance of a trail, while that's coming on, basically downgrade a class 4 to a legal trail and maintain it for those recreational activities. So that is currently in the town plan, and I like to think that the town plan does guide some decision making. I did walk that alternative trail. I was under the inference that when there was mention of walking that trail, and you walked it, John? Yeah, that would probably be the same route. It does have a lot of complications. So another legal question to ask, I have read, and I think the answer is me, but maybe it needs to be double checked by our attorney, is if there was going to be a change of right of way, who is asking for the change of the right of way? Is it the private landowner, or is it the town that's saying, you know what, for whatever reason, erosion or changes in use, we really want to change the right of way to be over here? If the town is driving the horse, the snowshoe, whatever it is, I think the town is pretty much on the hook for the expense of building that new trail that will become the legal trail. If it is initiated by the private landowner And I know there are different estimates of cost of what it would be. There are definitely culverts, bridges, wetlands. It's a little bit longer. It's great to hear that John has checked in and that he's given his say so, but it would impact him if and indeed the two landowners are seen as being the initiators and the town saying, well, okay, we'll go along with that. I think that both Johns would primarily be on the hook for the expense of that. The other last thing I'd say, speaking to the public, I don't think we should give up any of our public right of ways. But that the public, that at least the people that have walked that trail, there are not a lot of people that are saying, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's take it off around over that way. I would think that we'd want to hear from the public before we got to a point. I don't think that, you know, the bikers that are in the room and other people that have been it, and maybe Rudy doesn't want to speak to this because he also walked that trail, are all saying this is a great alternative. So anyway, that's my view.
You want to answer his question? Or-
Right, thank you. First of all, I just want to say that, thanks to some generous help, as of this past weekend, the trail is cleared. It doesn't have bridges, but it is on the Dodge farm property. It's, you know, so it's well marked, and everybody and anybody can go along. You know, one of the beauties of laying out a new trail is that you get to pick and choose where you're gonna go. And we think we have avoided, there are a lot of wetlands in that patch of ground. And we have done everything we can to avoid them. And I do think that the wetland impacts of the Walker Trail in fact less than the existing North Trail, simply because of that enormous space of wetland that sits in the middle of the trail. But you know, they're both wetlands issues, but it's that doesn't decide the question. In terms of, I mean, I think I'm resigned. I mean, if this gets too expensive, then I'm resigned to paying the cost of this, which I hope could be done at a reasonable cost. If that happens, then I've borne the cost. The town doesn't bear the cost. The way this works is there's no net loss. Totally clear. You know, linear foot basis is a gain. Of public right of way. The way it works mechanically is the existing right of way is thrown up. Of course, that's happened many times in history, but it's just extinguished. The right of way is lifted, the land reverts to the private land. The landowner simultaneously borders of the way, work this out, so it's side of things, execute deeds, granting a right of way, an easement, a right of passage, earned perpetuity to the town over the land. So it would be legally, it would be legally equivalent. The rights of the public with respect to the right of way would be the same as they are in this. So I don't think that the public uses it in terms of its legal rights. You know, in many contexts, I have fought proposals, mostly open strategy, to cut off public access, throw off public rights of way, and I consistently oppose them. Sometimes I oppose it by saying, well, yes, as long as you provide a substitute. But, you know, here I'm offering a principle proposal, which is we're not reducing the public right to pass across right. Finally, just a question about what the easement says. The easement says that I can build trails on property. And of course, best management practice. I've interpreted to mean I shouldn't cut live vegetation to the wetlands. And I've cut this trail. The trail exists. It's a nice narrow walking path. Adventurous way. And I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed under the easements to permit biking. I don't know why this is in the easement, but fortunately for us, it is allow biking anywhere. What I cannot do without permission of the Republic of Ireland is create a new legal right. And so in order to effectuate this spot, they would have to approve. And the case to them, would be that there is an existing right of way, across the, for recreational purposes, across from that point of property. That would be extinguished and another right of way would be created. A little longer, but comparable, achieving all sorts of public benefits, private benefits, as well as a whole lot of public benefits, facilitating, encouraging, without controversy, a whole variety of private uses of land. My hope is that if we can go through cross all the various hurdles that George has identified. If we can get to yes, and then we turn to the upper valley land trust and say, now the question is whether you will agree. I'm extremely hopeful that they would say yes. I mean, they can do it. I mean, they have complete discretion if they think it's in the public interest to do it. And it serves, but they might say no.
So that,
I'm not.
that quick answer that I thought might come is actually not so quick. The quick answer from them would have to be predated by all the other agreements, both landowners, the select board, et cetera, the route, and then present it to them as something for them to consider. So that is just,
In August.
it elongate, oh, you know.
I mean, let's be honest.
Why not just,
I'm just saying, we can get through this quickly, we can get to that at the end of the process, get their sign or not.
you're very optimistic.
And George is a very thoughtful, John and George are very thoughtful people.
Yes, man.
What about just establishing the trail? And I'm just giving like my thought, this does not represent others in the biking community. Establish the trail, pass an ordinance saying bikes can't go on Orchard Road. I mean, honestly, I think speaking as a biker, I think George would say the same. I mean, honestly, my desire to bike there is not to bike by the farm, it's to get from point A to point B up high. And so if you build a superior trail, bikers will go there. If you put up a sign saying no bikers allowed per ordinance, whatever, bikers won't bike on the Orchard Road Trail. I think that throwing up Orchard Road and Moody Road is a step too far. And I think there are other users who aren't present to talk, there are people who responsibly dirt bike over these trails and there's not a lot of it, but there's some kids who do that and they, and I'm not saying they should do it on the Orchard Road Trail, but I don't think that we should say we are for, because all of us, with the exception of Mariah and to a lesser extent, Jonathan, are, in the second half of our lives. And you can talk about perpetuity for your ownership of Orchard Road, but who knows what's going to happen in 30 years time or 40 years time? Who knows what, growth is going to be like? Who knows what climate change is going to bring in terms of floods? And so I think, again, it's just a policy matter. We should not be throwing up legal trails. But I will say that if you established a good trail, I think bikers would use it.
Thank you.
The offer to use the trail and spend some time, if everyone wants to bike the trail, try to get George to it. You'll have to walk across the streets. Like, go bike.
But I think that is the, a point that's been missed is that, we're all willing to walk across the street. I mean, there's been discussion about these trails and how unsuitable they are for cycling. Many's the time that you get off and walk across a down tree or so yes, that's not ideal, but in terms of initially establishing the trail, again, I think we spent a lot of time talking about wetlands, and there's some irony that we're now talking about walking across wetlands. But
Well, the idea is that have very little of that, bridges, avoid wetlands when we're done, but I'm just saying now, there's no reason why. Like, anyway, I'll just, that's it.
You want to speak in?
I just want to briefly say that, I'm not totally on board with the way you're describing the trail. It seems it's got multiple stream crossings and wetlands. It's not going to be. And to bring that trail up to the standard of what we already enjoy, it's something that a bike, horse, a skier can go down, or even forget whatever use it is, what's currently there, it is a road. And it's got some bad spots, needs some help, but it's the clear, logical route through that topography, so you have where you're going.
Yes.
It's very direct, it doesn't require much maintenance with the storm that we just had. All the brook crossings and stream crossings, who knows how many bridges to be out, and I don't think it's the town will be trading apples. For the town to trade apples for apples, that is, just can't be a narrow line trail with some bridges that I don't really know, it's gotta be able to take. It should be the equivalent. And I disagree with your assessment that it's a good route, it's not good. I think to put a route up higher as we walked, and there are better routes that I think would make a lot more sense. They wouldn't be where, exactly where you want them, but I think there might be a good compromise, maybe a good candidate for an actual, apples to apples, really right way trade. So.
That's something real quick. So when we walked, you mentioned that walk a year ago. So I don't know who told me this, but you can see in that problematic area. I think they shifted the Orchard Road. Oh, remember? You remember seeing that? You can actually see where it used to be a little bit lower. And yeah, that wetland is challenging. I feel like it's the same challenge at the end that I pointed out, right? The challenge above, you can see it start to look back down below. It's not really well defined, right? So you can see how they had to make some decisions about Orchard Road even back in the day. So yeah, it's worth walking just to look at.
Yeah.
At some point they made a decision. I don't know how they made that decision. Was it a changeable right away?
No, probably was just it was drier over here and water over here.
Comes the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it within the 3 rods? Probably.
I think it is.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I talked to our lawyer almost 2 weeks ago now, and he specified, he's very specific, saying, don't give up your legal right of way. And he said, we have, unless we restrict usage, anything goes. And if we have usage, which we do, then we have the right to repair it if we want to. And those are the 3 things that he really stressed. So I just want to bring that in. Yes, Joe.
So, to frame this discussion going forward, John, I think one thing that's confused me all along was that this should really be called the alternative legal trail, not an alternative trail, because it became clear to me in our two talks that you have no real interest in an alternative bike route around your property, which is what I originally thought was the problem, that you felt it was unsafe and right, they disturb your peace, they could run down herb birds, etc. So I always thought, okay, if we can get bikes off Orchard Road and Orchard Trail, we've accomplished something. But that's not actually the whole story here. In that, if we created this trail that wasn't, say it was a vast type trail that bikes could use, and the legal Orchard Trail remained the way it is, you're not happy with that outcome.
Right, for the reason that any given year, it could become a bike route. And so, and George has said he wants, speaking the advocates, and he wants to see on the trail, not whatever the trail has to be, horses, pedestrians, small kinds, and bikes. The idea is that the alternative legal trail would accommodate all those uses as a matter of public right. It would appear. I hope the lady wouldn't exclude the possibility, don't give up your right of getting food, but don't, maybe you accept a perfect substitute.
Wait just a minute. We might accept a perfect substitute, but it sounds to me, from what George said, we aren't gonna get a perfect substitute. We won't get a substitute. We won't.
I would, our plan, our intention, public commitment would be maintaining the Orchard Trail as a walking path, as it is now. So that it can serve that loop that goes that way. And that's not, that's like the rest of the path.
Okay, John.
The rest of the path.
Yeah.
There's no. That's.
So Sorry, Dan. No, let me just finish this thought. So. The irony is not lost on me, John, that in this whole debate, you've somewhat been the representative of the landowners. And in this case, it has to be partner landowners with the O'Briens, whatever, both Orchard Legal Trail and the alternative legal trail. You need buy-in from the O'Briens, and I would say our family has all along been okay with the present legal Orchard Trail. And a new one, we're not interested in creating. So that creates, as George was talking about, difficulties. We're open with our walks to a vast, like, alternative trail because we were trying to help out this whole bike reroute. But as far as this whole idea of throwing up, and if it was thrown up, then the O'Briens, for example, we could put up fences and say no pedestrians on this, right? No pedestrians on the old Orchard Legal Trail, because it would be a legal trail anymore, right? So this whole idea of talking about, well, we're still open to pedestrians, you don't speak for the O'Briens.
Well, I said to you directly that my hope, as a conservation, either your trail would be, your portion, would be the walkway would be. It's a wetland, it's a mess, it's a marshy pond, and people just shouldn't be going through there. That doesn't, so I think the world would be better off if you did block public access. I mean, they say you want to allow access to wildlife to your property. With that island and the slope. On our end, there are also some last two wetlands that are same lines and so. And you know, our intention would be to leave that trail open. And I think that's, you know, makes sense environmentally, and it does make that nice.
But I don't, sorry, but I don't think it's correct to, yes, there are times when it's wet. It's not a marshy bog, but it sounds like, again, you're proposing to take this new trail through a marshy bog. And moreover, I mean, I think, yeah, you know, wildlife biologists will tell you that you're better off sticking with a single established trail than establishing a new trail. So it just, you know, there from a legal perspective, you've got to negotiate with the land conservancy. You may need permitting. You've got to negotiate with the O'Briens, who sound as if they, I mean, it just, there are so many complexities when we have, as George said, a working trail. We can play it by ear in terms of use. Again, I think you are not going to see a ton of use from the biking community, and frankly, all of us who live on class 3 roads and class 4 roads see use that increases and decreases depending on who's living and what the, you know, the fads of the time are. I can say back in the 70s, people would four-wheel over Goodwin Hill Road all the time. I mean, there was much more four-wheeling around here than there is now. A lot of the legal trails are much like more lightly used. I mean, you used to always see four-wheel drive tracks on the vast trails, and you never see them now. So, you know, yes, it is possible there would be some increased use. I still think, I'm certain that the biking use would be much lighter than the pedestrian use. And it's just, it is the far and away the simpler solution, John.
I mean, the choice you have is accept George's recommendation. Let the process continue. To make progress, other issues, working on it hard. Or you say, well, we're just, it's not gonna work. Let's, you know, let it go forward. We need decisions. So, you know, whoever loses can take an appeal to the Supreme Court and all the other consequences that we've all reversed of not coming to an agreement. I think that I urge you to accept George's recommendation. See if we can get the yes, rather than, you know, say, no, let's just litigate for 3 weeks. Because, you know, let's see where that lands and the taxpayers can afford it. But Michael Simon said we can afford to put out line and greater. Pay our legal fees instead. No, I don't think that makes any sense.
Do you have anything more to add, John? Right now?
I mean, the best case scenario from, I mean, I agree, we should keep this conversation going because maybe getting the yes means we convince you somehow, John, that there should just be a fund, like Jonathan was saying earlier, he's greedy, he would love both, but you know, a single track and the Orchard Legal Trail, which I agree too, I'd love that. And it uses our property and we'd be okay with a vast, like, you know, workaround on that, because you don't go through the wetlands and you don't go by your house. It seems like this is a great idea, but if you won't pay for it, I'm not sure who's gonna pay for this. And the other alternative, I mean, best case scenario, you sort of have a Cal Hemingway situation where either the legal trail, your side, your property, the legal trail comes to our property and stops because we don't want a new legal trail on our property, or it goes the other way. And even if the town said, fine, John, you get to keep or throw up just your portion of the Orchard legal trail, but the O'Brien's, it's gonna go right to your property. So that doesn't, neither of those solutions make a lot of sense to me.
There may be something better, give you an idea.
Just to clarify, my proposal is that we continue to talk with John's. But that we also reopen trails immediately to all their traditional uses. Because, you know, there's no harm in continuing to find an amicable solution to the problem. But there's also no reason to not allow the traditional uses to continue, and it will be most likely a long time, and also it's most likely that it won't be acceptable because there are undeniable challenges and a real lack of inclusiveness for the proposed.
Jordan, if you have something you want to say?
Well. Yeah, one of the things I'm struck by, that your suggestion that the trail is enough. And that we will allow pedestrian use. Is, it seems to me like subject to the same difficulty, let's say, that you are seeing them staying a legal trail. And, you know, under the control of the selectmen. So in other words, you are work or was this board might say we're going to restrict it, we're going to move the bike trail, and we're going to specify pedestrian use only, and pedestrian courses or whatever it was. We're going to say, John, fine, we're going to move the bikes off the trail. That's your primary issue, right? And your point was, future self. So, that basically you're saying, you know, throw the road up, I'll allow pedestrian use on it, but in fact, next year, there's no going to change your mind. And you're absolutely right. And the exchange is, the town has a legal right of way. Now designated pedestrian use, but that's the right uses. On these, the proposal is that we now acquire new legal and on which they would be agreed upon uses that meet all the public protections. And I'm just, yes, I'm telling you what I'm going to do, which is what we've done since we purchased the property, but no, it would not be a legal entitlement.
Yeah, real quick. One, I'm glad that the attorney checked in and was very clear in what his advice was. I've been kind of waiting for that and it finally happened. Two, I agree with George, and I'm glad you clarified that the discussions can continue, but that the trails, we've been waiting for a vote of the 3 select board members for quite a while, should be opened as soon as possible, with a lot of the things that the Trails Committee and the Planning Commission discuss as far as signage and being careful and their times to close them, eventually working towards making them so that they are, you know, maybe there is a small boardwalk that's way down the road. I think that's a really good idea. And what was the last thing? Oh, well, I'm glad Thornton brought that up. I want to echo that point that, and I think Cal has brought this up, and there's a wider perspective that a lot of people think may be going on here about maybe gradually moving to having a lot of legal trails and public right of ways sort of eventually disappear, or they're obstructive enough that they don't get used and a future select board throws them up because it's a total jungle and no one's ever used it for use. That's certainly something that's kind of going on under, it's like reverse eminent domain. We won't get into the definition of that. So I would definitely go for that. And we are at midsummer. This all started in August of 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. We're midsummer. If we were to continue in the current policy, just kind of wait and see. We can wait and see how the negotiations, but wait and see and not change the policy. I think that is really a disservice to the public of Tunbridge.
Oh, yeah, Tom.
Question for Jonathan, how is your steward system gonna work? Like, can you recommend
You stole my question.
a similar steward, you know, whether it's one person or a body, three? Can you come up with some sort of workable sewer system that we can adopt?
Yeah,
For the
so
wheel
it's
trail?
on the agenda. It says to work out those details on Thursday at the Trails Committee, but it, you know. At the basic level, obviously, it would be a person with a name, right? Don't think there needs to be more than one person, as long as they can commit to walking it, observing it, making calls, to see whether it's. And then we provide the guidelines to do that, right? And they, again, they don't have to come back to the Trails Committee, they don't have to go to the select board. You know, they have the authority to make that call.
And you think that's very workable then?
Absolutely.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
right,
I think it's essential.
John.
I have a question for Andy. How does that work with VAS? Because you have a season, but within that season now, you get these thaws, say, in midwinter, where you can't use VAS trails. So who makes that call in your trails? You do, by club. Okay. Interesting. Is that one person?
We kind of share our impression of, you know, how is it over by your house? And, you know, myself and the trail master and the Uber operator, I'm the president, so. But I work with 15 people, we've only got 15 people. The whole club, so it's not a large conversation.
And how do you
And
get
it's
that?
pretty straightforward, when the snow goes lately, it just goes.
Yeah.
So no brain.
And how do you get that information out? Do you contact Vermont VAS? You know,
No, just our. Well, actually, yeah, they have set up a very intricate computer system where we can report our trails. If you download the VAST app, you can see all the trails, and they're color coded. When they're red, they're closed, and we report that very quickly. Like instant, as soon as you can get some Wi-Fi, Tom Trotter takes care of all that, which is really good at that. And he runs the boom there. He just highlights trails, they are either red, yellow, or green. And it's pretty instant. And everybody's gotten real adept at using that app. So. You know what trails are closed, you know what's one.
so if I'm a snow machiner from Swanton and I'm down in this neck of the woods, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, it's closed, right? Okay,
I use it,
you do.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or I leave my house.
There's also other apps that do that.
John.
If you want to search for a solution, you can do. You want to preserve the snow machine's desire to. Solution by everybody's. You have to encourage the parties to negotiate. If you open this trail, I think the position everyone recognized that would be totally reckless to put bicycles through the Orchard Trail as it currently exists. So the idea of opening now seems really crazy. If you do that, then the litigation is going to blow up. It's going to continue for years. The snow machine is lose that trail. I don't know if they lose that connection. What their ability is to recreate the links that will allow them to use that. And there will be no further conversation. There will be no further conversation. I'm happy to answer the telephone, but I don't think I answer. So if you want a conversation to go forward, you want to see a solution that is truly achieves a true win-win. Encourage, allow, and encourage these conversations to go forward.
Are you talking all the trails being reopened to everybody right now?
I don't think so.
I think I would go with the steward.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about other trails tonight, or?
Briefly,
Yeah, I mean, so the Orchard, so Falls Hill. We had said open to pedestrian access, right? And only after clear signage was placed, right, because of the trespassing.
Yeah.
Baptist Hill completely closed, except for fast use in the winter, right? But not discontinued, we did use the language, right? And then Crossroad, given the current trail circumstance, lack of signage, everything, this trail is closed until maintenance can occur. Paired with clear signage, so, and the maintenance will require coordination with the state district wetlands ecologist to plan for and receive permission for the wetlands crossing on the trail, so, yeah, not, that's not straightforward.
What's your recommendation on the Orchard Trail that one of the colleges plan to develop?
For Orchard. Yeah, we said. Until the trail can be reviewed by the state's district wetlands ecologist, it is only open to pedestrian use when the ground is frozen. So Jeff Parsons did review, but and then Rudy comment on the state wetlands ecologist review as well. We talked about that earlier. No, we did say, given the wetland concerns and until a plan can develop for this trail, the community is generally supportive of limited use, but was mixed as to what this specifically meant. The community was mixed as to who should be able to use this trail, given noted historic uses, including pedestrian, horses, and bikes. And then repeating on what we kind of referred to just now, John Echeverria is on record saying if the trail is open to more than pedestrian use, the remainder of his land will be closed to all uses, including bass. And then we talk about your alternative trails, so.
Having been out in the evaluating the trails, they're very well. Very, very well. So,
On this app.
Yeah.
Just a quick question on that app.
Yeah.
Do any towns have an app like that? It's like them.
Yeah, I would say, Mike's got a form of that, and then, the Berkshire, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Berkshire's got a pretty good one. Or the print. I think the website, our website can serve. Right, it doesn't have that. We don't have the finances, to put in an app, maybe that VAPS does, right? From state, right?
But some variation, that would be
Yeah.
great.
But given how quickly Jeff Hansen seems to respond.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's really good. So it's achievable. Right, yeah.
Okay.
That's a shout out to Jeff Hansen.
He listens
Oh, Andy,
There are some free apps available. Polaris has a free app that the ATV clubs, somehow they get their trails on there. I'm not sure exactly how that works. But I think there's opportunity there for jumping on some of those apps. If you want.
I'm a big fan of starting simple. I don't think the Bass Trail obviously needs, it's a complex system. I don't think if we're.
And collecting duties.
Yeah, I don't think we need that yet, right?
yeah, that sounds good to me.
I just want to make sure I understand, John. When you're describing the alternate trail. I understand correctly that you are encouraging use of that trail at this time, but if that is open and we have an app that shows town trails, like that would show up on, that's like. Well, no, I'm not opening. I'm not opening that. I am for the purpose of this, with this group, for the purpose of testing the trail, figuring out what it works, and invite people in this room to go and use the trail. So you can get a sense of it. It's not going to be. It's not going to be. Well, who else get out there? It would be, I think, just in terms of working towards a solution, that it could be a good gesture to say, in fact, I would do that. You obviously would have the option, I would say, that's not, but
my personal opinion is, and that's, I remember the trails committee and having, you know, having this conversation, that would be, I think, a good gesture. What we're saying is, I'd like to keep the. I heard, I just didn't, sorry, I know I'm stumbling a little bit, but I think I have something to get out with. So that what we would do is that the status quo in terms of the use of the building trail. In other words, you're clearly against that, this is that would say we're gonna open it to full use, right? So that's your. We got, you prefer for that to say, that's what we use. You offered this alternative trail. Not just in theory, but in practice, you've made this trail. You've offered this trail as an alternative use specifically defined. To me, it feels like the reasonable, let's see how this works. For you to say, and I do appreciate your invitation to the room to test this out, but, you know, is it one of us? If you have a family member or a friend to say, like, let's check this out. Would you see your way to extending beyond that invitation and saying, this specific prayer, that I made the effort to locate and if this is the solution that I'm proposing, can I compose it as a solution now, which would perhaps make it easier to keep or limited use of the current. The problem is the trail is hard. But it has, you know, little buildings that need culverts. It has places that need stream crossings. It's not. I think all the discussion has been that it needs to be improved. The discussion has been, and John needs to pay for the improvements. And so I think the general understanding, I think it's very honest, is that money would have to be invested in improving the trail before it can be used. Just as I would suggest the worship trail needs substantial amount of work before it could be a part of it. But you know, it's not as though I can say, well, let's just open the trail, because it's not something that's safe, desirable trail. It's too many unaddressed places. And too many places we have to get out. I know that's possible, but it's not going to be a feeling experience. Well, and I heard Matt say that in fact, to some extent, any trail that's said, out. And that to even get to it is already restricting the people that will be elected to use it. So I guess my problem is you're saying here's and I understand it. Do it. But the fact that, you know, this is the proposed alternative thing, generally, we've been using it for the potentially more experience. People who sort of know what they're. What would be the harm in saying, test it out? This is where I want you to go as my roots. Test it out. You choose.
It's you should walk it. It's a one-way trail. That's the problem. Yeah, it's not, it's a demo.
Yeah, I think what you're suggesting is, bicycle on the existing trail. You know, some people might prefer the alternative, or they might want to do a loop.
Oh, that's not. No, right. So that's not what I was suggesting. I would suggest
You ready?
that, that if that was actually open, truly wanted, I say I have perfectly.
Yeah, it's-
But it's not.
People end up trespassing and other people go in. It's not complete yet.
To go on.
It's worth walking just to get.
They want it.
It's like, if I have a bike, I can walk.
All right, anybody else want?
I had just one.
Okay, yeah, no.
And John, you might have thoughts about this being a lawyer and a landowner. What if the O'Briens, for example, want to access the corner of our land that abuts you, that very corner? As a landowner, do we have the right to say, put in 4 culverts and improve the Orchard Legal Trail to a point where I can drive my tractor out there and fire it? Not the tenant. I might have to get permission from the select board, but I'm the landowner. I want to improve a piece of my property.
Under the proposed easements. The proposed right of
I'm
way,
saying right now,
you're going to propose it, though?
the Orchard Legal Trail. But 80% of the Orchard Legal Trail, or maybe more, is on O'Brien land. So what if, as a landowner, my mother said, I want to invest some money here, we're gonna get Matt Loftus to make this into an easily accessible. I don't know, like, private landowners crossing the class 2 wetland, do you have to get a permit?
Can I give an answer?
Yeah.
Which is like the class 4 road, which goes up to my parents' property, was recovered as part of the ancient roads process. They've accesses with features land. My parents were logging. They put in culverts with permission. There's actually, I think if you go back through the minutes, the features were given the right to, I mean, and your brother does a lot of work there with, I mean, I think, and there was that recent decision about the class 4 road up at the top of Belknap Brook, right? So I think if you can do it for a class 4 road, as a landowner, I mean, you should be able to do it with a legal trail, I would think.
I have a question. So the Bass Trail on Baptist Hill. Right, you put in the bridge. Right, did that go through the Selectboard? You know the bridge I'm talking
Right,
about?
yeah.
That's an example, right?
Yeah.
No. When was it put in? But there was a gate or something that you came and select board. Was that on the back still as well? And you sought permission and you voted. Is that an example? But it's not a culvert, it's a gate.
No, it was just, he wanted to cross cattle from one paddock to another, and he wanted to temporarily gate the road and then close the gates so that the road was accessible.
If I understand your question, I think the answer is a landowner can do anything they want on a legal trail that's on their land. That doesn't unreasonably interfere with the public use of it. Although there's a sort of special provision about, and you can put your lighting in. It's statute specifically allows.
So long as you don't block with the one. That's also what the statute says.
Something like.
Like on Falls Hill, they
Yeah.
couldn't leave.
You
limbs
can't,
all over
you
the
can't,
trail,
right,
but-
exactly.
Well, I make a motion that, we go back to its former use with walkers and horses and bikes.
Non-motorized.
With a trail committee steward, overseeing the trail. So, both.
All right. Any more discussion?
Can I just ask one question? Do you want to make it subject to not having events go through?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, no large events,
Yes, no organized event.
and we can also set up a policy later. All right, all in favor, please stay on. Oh,
Discussion.
yeah,
So what's happening to solution people who are ready to be talking soon?
I personally am still open to talking to somebody not, but I don't, I just find it well, you also threaten to, which I don't care for, but that's another.
No, I thought, sorry, but that's part of the deal. That's part of the understanding.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, all in favor of Mike's motion please say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Put your
Unanimous.
name on
Thank you.
So
Next
Jonathan,
meeting,
Jonathan will set up a storage system
We have a meeting Thursday.
and we'll report back to the select board next meeting.
Yeah.
And this is for limited use,
non-motorized.
non-motorized. Anything, no electric bikes, just pedal bikes.
What's it with the state of Vermont bikes? When they sent in the same bikes for the class one could
Oh, I,
go.
No, it's up to the select board to designate the uses. They can say that that's a motorized bike and not go through.
In
Non,
the state of Vermont's rule, it doesn't, I'm just asking.
No, it's not a problem.
yeah, because I think the town can limit, I mean, they could limit it to to only pedestrian use, so I think they can limit it in any way they want.
They can
Right.
override the steward.
non-motorized,
Do you think they can operate it?
Does that mean no electric bikes?
no electric bikes.
I don't think you can do that.
We can do that according to our lawyer.
Not with going through a hearing. I don't think that's true with respect to all types of bikes.
I'll call the lawyer back tomorrow again.
I don't want to hold on to this because you can't do, I'm quite certain you can't do that.
We've been holding off for 3 years, John.
Okay, well, then, that also lies.
No, it's not open until we have the steward arrangement, John.
Right. So it's not open until 2 weeks from tonight or whenever our next meeting is. When everything is set up to go.
I should clear my schedule in 2 weeks and not.
You can't go on vacation.
Sharpen your loppers.
And so no bicycles, Todd. For 2 weeks.
I haven't, I've walked my home.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just telling you.
Don't worry.
So
I
this
can wait
date
3
will
weeks.
be 7/25/2024.
All right. And they go to live in me.
And in the meantime, we can, whether it matters or not, we could look into state of Vermont rules on bikes.
Sure.
Yeah.
See if facilities can go through with their fancy bikes. He's got.
Yeah, you're really
Look,
disappointed me,
what
you
if
know?
somebody gets older and they want electric bike to go up money.
All right, we're all done with that part of the show. Thank you, Gary.
Talking.
Thanks for your effort.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Andy.
Tunbridge community.
What's Andy's last name?
That's Rob. Bush.
ROGPER. That's what you're gonna put
And you're
last
gonna
time.
meet him. Okay, 'cause there's- Are you?
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, guys. Thanks. Thanks for all your
Yeah,
patience on this.
Well, I tried to help you, just so you're aware, I think they.
The governor controls emergency.
60.
But is it flooded?
You have some suggestions already?
Early day.
No, but I mean,
Stay out there.
yeah.
Betty and
Back.
John might know that. Betty and
And I don't know, like Waterbury, remember Irene, like wiped
Well,
out.
we drove back,
Stay.
we drove back late last night from Burlington and got off, had to get up in Middlesex.
Right.
Go over the Moortown Gap, it was a complete.
Wow.
See you guys.
You know who you are?
Oh, I didn't ask. What is Betty's last name? What can I do?
Betty White.
Or trying to say.
She.
Where's the Tunbridge Walker? Do we have a copy there?
Yeah, but she signed that letter and she.
Or look up, we have the Tunbridge Walker group on here for me.
Look,
But you,
It's Ellen Hospital, right?
It's been good.
Ellen Hosford, yeah.
yeah.
We're feeling
Above Brenda.
Guys, you did it. You Made a move.
you're trying to say.
I'm saying I'm glad. You made a
That you
decision.
accepted to be steward.
No,
Yeah, have to walk. it,
Maybe you're-
but
I know.
Maybe Deb.
Yeah, we'll just be like, hey, Devin, by the way.
Take your electric bike and walk.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, almost ran into you last night.
I know, that's what I heard. Thank you.
We have an interesting meeting Thursday.
He came up way faster than I thought he would.
Yeah, and you were like, don't T-bone me.
with no lights in that bike.
There's a
one
little tiny one.
On the back.
Oh, he don't have his front one on?
No.
Oh, you got a headlight on there.
What do we got left? Just sign orders and
Yeah, thanks,
in minutes.
let's do it. Wait a minute.
I perused the minutes and I thought they were okay in general, but I didn't catch any spelling
A
errors,
lot of people at that last one. so.
punctuations. Are these,
You just wrote Betty last time.
are these,
Can you find her on anywhere on there?
I'm looking.
do we have?
Rudy, do you know Betty's last name?
Brown.
Oh,
Brown.
Betty Brown?
You said white.
You were both.
One of those.
One of those. Thanks, Rudy.
Thank you, Rudy.
Oh, Rudy?
Yeah.
One more question. I'm sure the riparian expert here, you know, that the piece of land we were close to buying, but then we got snatched at first. I was looking at that today, you know, completely covered with water in this flood and. not necessarily- Right, well, yeah,
The septic leach field did not.
the mound survived. But
now-
are there, if that one was gonna be a hip camp even, you know, or even something that, you know, didn't have foundations. Are there rules on that? You can have a campground,
Sure there are, and it's something I'd like to address when we update the club hazard ordinance,
yeah,
because it seems like a real.
Bad
hole to me.
idea.
And I'm watching what's happening in Henderson's hideaway down there as well. and
Right.
It's just like. I don't
Able
know,
Mountain Campground, yeah, there are a
have
bunch of them,
people At risk like that.
yeah,
I don't know, and have our name be on the front page for the deaths.
right,
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah. And, you know, maybe,
So, yeah.
It's a
I-
good
I
thing
don't
is-
think we have something like that.
if, say it was a public space, a ball field, for example, and you have, you know, PFAS, PCBs washing down the river onto that. I can see, you know, just like what happened at Hurricane Splash, where like you can't use these vegetables anymore, and I don't know, in public spaces, when there floods with pollutants, you know, what happens?
That's a-
I don't know, but it might be a good thing, it's not a ball field, actually, if it will happen there.
Yeah. Thank you, that's definitely worth
Thank you.
considering.
Probably should just be left alone.
Thank you.
The best thing, yeah, let the river go, because I guess part of Brent's went down the river.
It's receding now, a lot more of it went than I realized.
Yeah.
I was shocked when it started to
Was
recede.
it cut in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, like, whoa, that stretch, we
Didn't
need to
see
do
that
something
coming.
about that. if we could.
But like you said earlier, or maybe it was this afternoon, but the old bridge abutments focused the water and then it gives the
On
riprap.
that side.
And then it just went right straight to Brent, so just, yeah, it was there half an
Yeah, I
acre.
took a picture today and then realized you're looking right at that.
Yeah,
Oh, when it comes off Stratford Road, that creek,
No,
Through that bridge?
when it goes through the old meeting house bridge abutments.
oh, up
At the
there,
top end of Morrison's field there, and right by the town garage. It just, it kind of came into the rest of that further downstream, but it
yeah,
doesn't allow it to access that right side, so basically. Until you reach that complete flood where it accesses the whole thing, it's aimed at that bank.
right. Well, that goes way back
That's where we put the riprap before.
right. Um, That's a complicated stretch there.
Yeah, more to be revealed too, as this stuff proceeds.
yeah, that's for sure.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you, Ruby.
Bye, Rudy.
I was amazed. The water, and see Timmy's phone.
Are you there now?
You know,
And then
you
plant,
would think it would, I would think it would rock it right in the river.
is it flattened or is it?
Oh, yeah, blocked over.
Yeah.
But it's still there. I would have thought it
Yeah.
would have ripped it up.
How high was it, like this high or something?
It was probably waist high.
Yeah, so it's not gonna come back then.
I doubt it.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Plus it was coming trees up.
Yeah. Years ago in the 73 flood, that was in June.
Oh, it was sort of right around, yeah.
Yeah. But Merle had a bunch on the meadow down there. It was like this tall. And after the flood, they took hose and took it
Really?
all out back up. I
Did
mean,
it come along?
yeah, as I remember it. Yeah, but I just remember seeing them out there with a hoe.
Yeah.
What a tedious
I was
job.
on the DTC then, and we I was working on the farm and stuff. We mowed much hay up by the interstate. Rain and stuff. And we couldn't do nothing with it, and I ended up around for the chop and chop it right back on.
Yeah. Take good fertilizer. Want to borrow your pen?
I wish you would.
Okay, Rich has been granted.
An app. Cause you didn't know what an app was. Were you being sarcastic? Don't you have an iPhone? Yeah,
Better than you want.
you know what, you do have a better one than me, I
It's
know.
got all sorts of apps and
You have an
I ain't got an app. Well, it's fine.
any of these little squares are apps. Then you click on them and then it's different things.
you can buy them. So.
I have apps.
I think I got a U-Haul app.
Yeah, you probably do.
There you go. I didn't have those.
They probably sent you.
I got a Happy Color app.
Happy color?
Yeah,
What's that for?
I don't know.
Almost happy.
That's what a secondhand paint.
It just showed up.
That's what most of mine are. They just show that.
Well, sometimes they come with, when you buy the thing, it comes with a sort of base amount of apps, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The bridge project on Kidling must have begun.
I
Since
mean, we
July
drove
4th.
past there today. Didn't really look like anything started, but
I think it's next week. I think it's
So it's July 3rd, yeah.
Right. They've been delayed some.